Yeah. First of all, thank you all for being on here. Um, it was good to get back outside today. The weather was really nice. Going a little bit later, I think helps. A lot of energy in practice, significant difference um, than last spring, and definitely much improved from year one. And I like this team, fun group to coach. Um, and with that, I'll open up questions because I'm sure y'all got a bunch, and try to give y'all as much time as possible. So fire away.
Please use the raise hand feature and we'll get your question to Coach Brown. Our first question comes from Greg Hunter.
So, Neal, each year, spring or fall, you seem to have points of emphasis. Going into this spring, what are some of your points of emphasis?
Situational football is number one. Critical situations. Today, we really worked 2-point plays with the new overtime rules. I think that's going to be something that's important. And anytime you're going to have a 2-point situation, it's going to be critical. So we did that, worked a lot of third and mediums. That's something that on both sides of the ball we got to get better at. But really, it's working. It's situational football. It's our response to adversity. I didn't think in the last 2 years, I don't think we've responded to adversity in an elite manner, and we need to do it. We need to be able to do that to improve our, where we're at in our league right now. And then we need to get through this spring understanding how to compete with. And what I mean by that is you're competing for playing time within your position room, but you're also wanting to push everybody in that room to get better. So you're competing with those guys. You're not competing versus those guys. And then we do a ton of offense versus defense during spring football. That's the way it's laid out. But you're still one team. So we've got to do so in a manner where we can get work done without getting injuries and things like that. But those are our main focuses right now.
Ian Cummings.
Hey, Neal, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Ian.
What's it mean to add a guy like Kirk, as an analyst in the program? And secondly, I'm curious about your nose guard position. You return a lot on defense. You obviously lost Darius. Who's competing there, and what do you want to see this spring?
Yeah, I'll answer the second first. So what we're doing during the spring is training a bunch of guys in a different spots. And we're doing that across the board. I just think it makes a lot of sense to give yourself some versatility. And I think spring's a time of teaching. It's a time of getting guys prepared for the season. And during the season, you're gonna have to move people around too. So Jordan Jefferson returns there. Akeem Messidor is somebody can play in there. Dante can play in there. And some of those guys that, Sean Martin can slide in. But we want to get as many guys reps in there as we can, just because I think versatility is going to be key. I think Edward, who just brand new here, I thought he did a nice job in there today. So we're really going to move all those guys around. Right now, our base is we're operating with 3 down linemen in that bandit position, which is a stand up. And we're trying to create, competition, but we also want versatility within where all those guys can other than, Linnell Carr and some of those guys are getting their first spring. The guys that are returning that have played, we want them to understand, know all those 3 positions and get reps in practice at those. As far as adding Kirk, I think it's a great addition. Guy I've known for a long time. Worked with him at the University of Delaware very early in my career. Always stayed close. I think his body of work speaks for itself. If you look at what he did, Western Michigan and then Minnesota, and they played well down the stretch last year. I think some of that got blown out of proportion at Penn State. But I think he's as good as anybody in the country. He's going to add a level of expertise for us on offense. He'll be able to help. Another set of eyes on that side of the ball for me, but also from a program wide. If you look at won a lot of games, won a lot of championships throughout his career, and I think it's going to be a benefit for our program.
Michael Sussman.
what do you expect the field goal competition to look like this spring? And is there a front runner at this point in time?
Well, Tyler finished the year. I got an echo. I don't know if y'all got an echo, but Tyler finished the year. Didn't have, was okay in the bowl game, but he's been consistent throughout his career in that role, both at Troy and here. I thought Casey, when he first got in the game after Evan got hurt, I thought he did a good job and kind of fell off. I think he's more healthy now than he was as far as just being fresh, and his legs look stronger. But we're basically splitting reps right now, and we'll put those guys in some more pressure situations as we get into practice. And we're not necessarily going to crown anybody the winner after spring. That'll carry into in fall and see where Evan's at as well.
Evan Kinder.
Coach, could you describe your special team spring competition that Coach Coons tweeted about? And more importantly, maybe what are the goals for that? I'm assuming for developing better special teams play during the season.
Yeah. So real quick, we picked 4 guys that are going to have the potential to start on multiple teams and have had success on special teams for us in the past. And so what we did is we had four guys, and then we had a draft. And that's what Jeff was tweeting about as far as first round draft picks. We had a draft. And then what we do in spring, just so you know, like we have some goals. We want to master fundamentals. We want to teach our base concepts in all 6 phases. So punt return, kickoff return, field goal, and field goal block. We want to teach base concepts. We want to identify personnel. And what we do is basically everyone outside the interior D line and the offensive linemen go through and learn our techniques and fundamentals. And then competitions are huge. We do a lot of punt versus punt return, competitive drills, kickoff versus kickoff return, competitive drills that are in controlled environments where there's not 11 on 11. For instance, maybe a guy running down on kickoff in the front line of kickoff return, and there may be only 2 or 3 people going rather than all 11. So there's less likely that somebody's going to be on the ground and you get pileups. So we do those competitions, and you get points for winning, you get points for losing, you get points for executing your assignment, or you lose them for missed assignments. And we've got a pretty good, between food and gear, good package as we get to the end of the spring for them.
John Antonic.
Got me. Sorry, I wasn't on my trigger there. Hey, Coach, you mentioned something back when you met with us a couple weeks ago about getting your best 11 on the field defensively. Does that entail experimenting? What are you looking at there when you're looking at personnel? Yeah,
so I think we got the ability to be versatile. I think that, we've got several defensive backs that have played a lot of football. I think we've got to be creative on how to get all those guys on the field. Whether that's taking a down lineman off or a linebacker out. We're obviously thin right now at linebacker. I think we all know that. We've got some help coming in the summer for that. But we're thin right now. And so because we're thin, it gives us an opportunity to mess with some traditional 4-down. It gives us some opportunity to mess with playing 6 defensive backs. So during the spring, we're experimenting, and it's a good time to do it, to see, how we can get who are our best 11 and what combination can we do to get them out there. Plus it gives us an opportunity to have a couple more personnel packages.
Ryan Pritt.
Hey, Neal. You mentioned experimenting and looking at things. Do you go into the spring with, any position starter in mind? Particularly, I'm looking at quarterback. I know you waited till late last year because you didn't have a spring, partially, I'm sure. But, as you approach this spring with the season that Jarrett had and the experience he has, do you go into it with him as a starter, or is this an open competition as well?
We go into spring and not to be redundant, but this is a teaching environment here. Like, we're trying to teach. We want to get as many people reps as possible. And we're not coming out of spring with starters at any position. we got people that maybe perform better, so they get the first opportunity in fall camp. But it's like, and I don't mean this being being a wise guy or anything, but like our record at the end of spring is gonna be 0-0. It really is. And so to me, we're not gonna play any games. So we're not in a spot where starters backup doesn't matter. If you come out and watch us practice, which you'll have an opportunity at some point here. The ones and twos are mixed. There's a distinct difference between guys getting reps and guys that don't get reps. But there's not, necessarily 1, 2, 3 at any position. You won't see a depth chart.
Cody Nesper.
Hey, Neal. With the addition of Kirk, it seems like a lot of the offensive staff has a background in passing games. And I was just wondering if that's purposeful by you or if you're just, if it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, I would actually say the opposite with Kirk. Now, he's had some really good quarterbacks, but if you look at how they ran the ball most recently at Minnesota, they were one of the top rushing teams in the Big Ten, and really well balanced. Same with Western Michigan. If you look at what they did as they were making their run when they went to the Cotton Bowl, I think they had 3 really good years there, and they ran the ball. And it's like a lot of really good teams on offense. They talk about throwing the football a lot, and they want to, kind of maybe brand themselves as passing, but they win games running the football. I think if you look at what he's done during his career, that would match up as well. And so, that's I think we didn't add him, for passing. We just added him because he was available. I trust him. I think he's extremely knowledgeable, and he can help myself, our staff, and our program offensively, but also program wide.
Back to Greg Hunter.
Neal, two-part question. You already mentioned injury to Evan Staley. So injuries that are going to keep people sort of out or limit them through the spring, and then also position changes. Anything of note?
So Jeffrey Pooler will be limited in the spring. He's a 6-year senior, so I mean, he's doing all the individual stuff, but he's not going to go through 11-on-11 contact. Jaquay Hubbard is limited. I'm hoping he'll be able to do more and more as we progress. Trying to think here. Monty, we got anybody else that you know of?
Nobody beside those two.
Yeah, those two are the only guys that are out. We're still dealing. We're in a good spot right now, COVID wise, knocking on wood, but we're still dealing with some of the same issues there where traditionally if a guy had a sore throat or whatever, you practice, but here in the last 13 months, we're overly cautious. So, but those are the only two that are out right now. Position change. My bad, Greg. I don't know if we have any, honestly. Looking at my notes here. Offensive line, we're double training guys, center guard, guard tackle, D-line, already talked about that. We moved Jai, moved him to will linebacker, just because his body grew into that. We kind of knew that when he came. He's turned into a will. We're dual training Chandler at Mike and Will, but it's the techniques aren't any different. We're just double training him, which he did. He did last year. Trying to move those guys in the secondary, outside the corners. We're really training our safety spear bodies how to play all four positions: our spear, our free, our cat, and our nickel or our dime will. So really teaching all those guys. But as far as the position changes, that we really, other than Jai, we really don't have one.
Michael Sussman.
Coach, Bryce Ford Wheaton showed some really nice flashes last year. Had those 2 really good games against K-State and Kansas in the middle of the season. What do you want to see out of him this spring as far as taking his game to the next level?
Yeah, I thought he had a couple of nice plays in the fourth quarter of the bowl game too. I think just consistency, it's confidence. He's had a great winter. He's uber talented. He's intelligent. He knows our offense in and out. And I think it's time. I think he would tell you the same. I think he's ready to take that next step, and I think he can be one of the better receivers in our league. I really do believe that. And he had a good day today. He really did. He made some plays downfield. He's becoming a more complete player, playing away from the ball. And he's really, and it doesn't get talked about, but he was one of those first round draft picks. He's been a really consistent special teams player for us. Kickoff return, punt return. So, but I think he's had a great winter. I'm excited to watch him this spring. He had a good start today.
Chris Anderson. Chris, do you have a question? You are unmuted and your hand is raised. Okay, we'll move on. Let's go back to John Antoni.
Jerry, I don't know if you've ever been asked this. How much do you bang guys and have physical practice during the spring? I know there are practices when you can and you can't. Is that something you do more as a field thing? How do you go about that?
We're smart about it. I think you got guys that are proven that you want to take care of, that you want to continue to keep them sharp and, and continue to put them in situations that are competitive where they continue to grow. But, you don't need to necessarily go out and have them play 75 plays in a scrimmage situation. All right. I think, guys that popped in my mind that are like that would be, Josh Chandler. He's proven himself. We need to keep giving him enough reps to maintain a Sean Mahone, Tyke Smith, Dante Stills, those guys that have played a lot of football and they need to get reps. But we don't necessarily need to put them out and get them, a bunch of reps on Saturdays in the stadium in a tackle situation. Offensively, let Brown be a guy like that. I think that, we know what he can do. He's got to continue to be sharp. There's things he can work on. We're really pushing him in the pass game this spring. And we'll give him enough carries to stay sharp, but it's not a deal where we're going to hand it to him 20 times in a scrimmage. I've already seen it. I've got a bunch of games. I got 10 games last year that showed that he's able to be 1,000-yard rusher. Now, is he arrived? No, but I don't think it makes sense to go out and get him tackled a bunch during spring. So we want to get better, but we're going to be sensible. We're going to be physical, but do it in a way that we try to keep people off the ground as much as possible in a non-scrimmage situation.
Ryan Pritt.
And Neal, obviously there's been some changes on your defensive staff. Looks a little different now. And I know we got to talk to a couple of those guys there the last time we had you on, but now as the players get out on the field is the time when those relationships start to gel, I figure, between players, and not only that, but between your coaching staff. So just how has that process gone, and how and if are practices different on the defensive side of things now?
Yeah, I don't think the practices are any different. The structure that we're using is still the same. Everybody has their own unique twist as far as energy levels, things like that during practice. I'm pleased with our additions. I think Shadon and AJ both are going to bring new ideas, different perspectives. I think they're really talented on the field, coaches and schematically, and they've both given us some good ideas that we've already installed. And so they are, I think it's going to be beneficial for the D line. As Jordan moved into the play caller role last year, it's hard to do that and coach the D line. It really is. So I think AJ is going to be a benefit to them. And then Shadon brings a lot of experience. And I've been pleased with how he and Dante Wright have meshed here early on. I think the camaraderie on that side of the ball is really good. Now, what you do during the practice, and thankful to have spring practice this year, is you understand how people work. So you're out there, especially in like scrimmage situations, you have to communicate and things change and you hit some adversity. So I think that builds the dynamic in that room. So it's definitely helpful.
Next question comes from Keenan Cummings.
Hey, Neil, you mentioned Doug Nestor before. You were excited to see him and Edward today playing on the defensive line. Any of those other midterm guys you think have a chance, based on positional, what you got at each position at this point, or too early to tell?
Well, Doug for sure. I mean, Doug, our hope is that he's going to be a significant player for us, and I haven't seen anything that makes me think any different. I've been really, really pleased with how he's approached his work ethic and all those things since he's been here. Um, going down, Edward has been a surprise to me. He moves really well. He's strong. His understanding of the game's better. The guys really, really like him. Um, I think that Wilson Lamp and Mallinger on the defense side they're thin. I think the winter has been positive for them. This is a great learning experience. There's no doubt from a talent perspective they're going to be able to do it. It's a matter of, can they get strong enough? Can their bodies get in a place where they can go in and compete against the best players in the country? I think that it was good. Scotty's back. Able to play in the bowl game. You can tell he's got a lot of confidence. As far as some other guys, the tight ends, it's going to be a learning experience for Traylon and Victor during the spring. It's such a step up in competition when you have to play physical on the line of scrimmage from high school. Will Crowder handled himself real well today in his first practice. And then Caden Prather is definitely talented, and I think that's a position where you can play. He's hungry, and he made a couple touchdowns today. So be eager to see how he's going to progress through the spring.
Cody Nesper.
Neil, you mentioned wanting to improve at how you respond to adversity. And I was just wondering, in a practice, how do you simulate adversity?
I create it. I mean, I put them out, man. You put them out there and you challenge them. You create the adversity, by making the practices hard, having to think when you're tired. That's exactly what I'm thinking about, because we have not executed as well as we need to in critical situations when we've been fatigued, and we've not held our emotions in check as much as we need to in critical situations. So the only way to practice that is you just continually put people in, and that's our plan for the spring.
We have time for two more questions. Let's try Chris Anderson one more time.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me this time?
Yeah, I got you.
Perfect. Sorry about that. I hate to kind of skip past spring ball since it just started, but I saw a report the other day about the NCAA's plans for summer recruiting type stuff, something about workouts and maybe a few days for camps. What have you been hearing? What are your thoughts? What's your perfect scenario for the schedule in the summer?
Yeah, my hope is, and I don't have any inside knowledge. I probably know. I read the same things you guys read, so hopeful for camps. I think that's important to get some evaluations in. I'm hopeful that we're able to have official visits. The class of 22, with a few exceptions, has not had any opportunities to get on campus, and so as the vaccine continues to be more and more readily available, my hope is that and our numbers go down, that we're able to do that as far as hosting recruits and hosting camps in a safe environment during June, and then at the end of July. I think we need to keep our dead period just for quality of life for the assistant coaches there, that late June into July. And then I hope we can continue what we started last year with the OTA style practices at the end of the summer, kind of the last 2 weeks of the summer session. I thought those proved extremely effective. I thought they cut down. I can speak on myself, but also just speaking to fellow coaches when we had our AFCA Board of Trustees meeting, that the number of injuries was down during fall camp and into the season. I know that was the case for us too, and I think the OTA style workouts there at the end of the summer was a positive and really helpful for that, because the guys were able to do football movements. It wasn't just strength conditioning, or they were able to actually go out and run plays, and defense and offense, special teams. And so I hope that we can continue to do that, because I think it's positive for the players.
Final question today comes from Greg Hunter.
So I started it and I'll end it. You mentioned cross training and your thinness at linebacker. You get a lot of bandits. I know that's a position that's sort of easy sometimes to cross train to Mikes. Do you do that a lot, especially with the young guys? Is it hard to do that with younger players who are just sort of learning?
Yeah, so those bandits, they play in the box quite a bit anyway. So if you go back and look at both Vandarius and Bartlett, we'll play them as the fourth guy down on the line scrimmage some, but also they'll play in the A or B gap as well. And so they do. There's a lot of crossover between the Mike position and the bandit position. Greg, you're right. And so I think that's an easy transition. It really is. We can, and they practice. We used them in the box today, and we can do that, and we'll continue to do that. And in one position, Torres Simmons is playing. And Greg, to answer your earlier question, I think it was you that asked, is Torres Simmons has moved more into a defensive end role now, and so just wanted to make sure I got that in. Appreciate you everybody being on. And then Monty will be in touch about access. We're just getting some